When I heard the scream, I knew it had happened. Not the cheating, we already knew about that. Not the lies, they'd been going on for years. But this was different. The moment it all snapped. And baby, let me tell you, glue was involved. Yes, you heard me right, glue. It was supposed to be a quiet Saturday night. But when you get firefighters and paramedics dragging a man and his mistress out of a tangled mess, stuck in a situation they didn't expect, that ain't quiet. That's karma. And no, they didn't die. But they did learn. She had been quiet too long. Smiled through the canceled anniversaries. Bit her tongue through lipstick stains on his collar. Believed one lie too many. So she made a decision. A swap so simple. So deliberate. So petty it was genius. You don't need a knife when you've got Elmer's, child. I watched it unfold from my car. Didn't say a word. Because sometimes, baby, silence is the loudest justice. Narrator, slow, thoughtful. Tomorrow, they'll wake up sore. Ashamed. And she'll wake up changed. This was the night the mask came off. Now listen, I ain't here to preach, but I am here to testify. Because this ain't just about glue. This is about betrayal, pride, the breaking point, and a daughter who decided she wasn't gonna play the fool one more time. Welcome to Voices of Granny Tina, where we don't just tell stories, we uncover 'em. If you've ever stayed too long, loved too hard, or clapped back just right, hit that subscribe button. Because what's coming next? It's gonna shake you. You won't believe who she had watching him. And when I tell you where the idea came from, let's just say, I might have had something to do with it. So pull up a chair. Sip something warm. Because this story? It's just getting started. If you're hearing this, you should know I've lived many seasons of silence. I once believed loyalty could fix everything. I once believed love could carry us beyond reason. But sometimes betrayal walks in quietly, in footsteps soft enough to slip past your guard. My name is Granny Tina. I'm the woman who raised this daughter, raised her to see truth, to hold her dignity, to trust her instincts. I loved her husband as well, welcomed him into our family. But from the beginning, there were whispers I didn't hear loud enough, heartbeats I ignored too long. He took business trips. That phrase became his armor. Sometimes those trips were real, conferences, client visits, travel across state lines. But some weren't. Some were cover. Some were notes and coded messages. Some were the kind of trip that left her waiting, late nights, unanswered texts, hotel receipts that didn't match client names. She asked once, casually, your meeting ran late? He said yes. She bit her lip. But her mind traveled further. She came to me late one night, eyes red. Mama, do you ever feel like someone else lives inside your home? She said it quietly, as though afraid the walls would hear. I drank in her fear. I watched her listening to her phone, hovering over messages she deleted. I watched her trace call logs. I saw her body tighten when he came home smelling of perfume she didn't own. The mistress, she was a ghost in their marriage. A name that flickered, a number that showed on caller ID then vanished. A name in a hotel ledger. A bank transaction under consulting fee. My daughter showed me coded text fragments. Midnight Clarice / 2 a.m. check. Quiet time, your favorite. She showed me photos she was too afraid to keep. The phone bills, I studied them with her. Unfamiliar area codes, 3 a.m. calls, short bursts of vibration. I felt my blood freeze. Because those patterns, they don't lie. Inside me, conflict roiled. I had pledged loyalty to my daughter, but I had married this man by extension. Part of me wanted to shield her, to protect her from pain. Another part whispered, you must pry open this quiet betrayal before it chokes her soul. I lay awake some nights, fingers trembling over call logs, debating, do I speak now or wait until proof? One evening, I lingered outside my daughter's door while she talked to someone softly on the phone. She said, I don't want to accuse him without proof, but I feel it. Her voice cracked, Mama, I've held so much inside. I don't know if I can swallow this one more time. My heart tore in two. I walked away silently. I hovered near my office. I pulled up her phone records with her permission. I scrolled through texts she had hidden in folders, messages she delayed deleting so she could read again. I traced hotel names, transaction entries. I saw she had confronted a hotel manager, saying she left something behind and asking for receipt. She told me she was surprised the manager asked, "Which room?" The manager had paused. She hung up. But I saw that spark of discovery in her eyes when she told me. I also overheard whispers late at night. In the hallway, voices low, muffled, his voice, hers, a hush of protest. I froze behind the door, heart pounding. I heard her say, "Glue, replacement, you'll see." I heard him swear. Enough to know something was escalating beyond suspicion. There were small inconsistencies I confronted gently. One night, I asked, "Did you meet Mr. Jacobs after that meeting?" He said yes. I asked, "Which Jacobs?" He hesitated. That hesitation told me more than the lie. Another time, I paid a plumber for a late call to fix a leak in their second bathroom. The plumber said, "Ma'am, the husband said it was for a pipe burst, but I only found a lipstick smear." I swallowed the story. I wondered, was that lipstick hers or someone else's? My daughter's eyes haunted me. Her strength dimmed under weight. I knew that by the time she confronted him, she would already be far beyond his reach. Because betrayal doesn't wait. It advances. It tightens its grip until gasping, the victim finally notices. So I whispered to her, "Walk carefully. Gather your proof. Don't rush. But don't wait until there's nothing left to show." I prayed she would outsmart the lies, outlast the deceit, hold her dignity while striking her blow. When tomorrow comes, the pieces she already gathered will begin to expose more than infidelity. It will expose alliances, cover-ups, silences from people you thought you could trust. And tonight, in the quiet between heartbeats, the real war begins. Memories have a way of settling in corners you forget. They drift in like dust motes in sunrise and cling to the soul. Before betrayal cast its shadow, there was laughter, trust, promise. Let me take you there, back when her marriage still felt like a sanctuary. I remember the early days, her courtship with the man she would marry. He was charming, attentive, full of soft words and bright dreams. On their engagement night, he told her with hand over heart, "I will never leave you." She smiled, tears shining. She believed him, her eyes glowed under string lights. We all believed. At family dinners, I watched them side by side, vibrating with hope. Holiday gatherings at my house, turkey, greens, sweet potato pie cooling windowsills. He laughed with cousins, teased her, sat close. I watched her lean in, face softened. She glowed. She felt safe. She believed the promises were permanent. On New Year's Eve, fireworks lit the yard. She and her husband danced on the porch floorboards, arms around each other. She whispered hopes, children, careers, legacy, growing old together. I sat back and watched that dream crystallize. The salt air, the moonlight, the piano playing softly, everything felt sacred. But as years passed, the foundation began to tremble. I saw small warnings that felt like murmurs at first. Late calls, 2 a.m. phone tones that startled the house. Disguised numbers. He'd say, "Duty called, needed me." She would nod. I watched worry flicker in her eyes. One night he came home smelling faintly of perfume she didn't wear. She paused at the door, inhaled, hesitated, saying nothing. I saw her swallow. There were unexplained absences. She'd go to the gym, he'd go to a meeting. She'd ask after hours, he'd murmur excuses. Sometimes he'd return late, quiet footsteps down the stairs. She'd rise, walk into the hallway, see the door to the guest room cracked, half-lit. I'd sit awake down the hall, hearing her catch her breath, her feet padding back to bed. I noticed hushed tones when he took calls in other rooms. I observed her phone locked, hidden apps, messages she opened then closed. I saw him delete browser history in the early morning hours. I saw her tear text fragments before she thought I was looking. I saw shadows behind their marriage. The mistress's presence was always a ghost, faint, peripheral, but real. She sometimes appeared in old photos, though not identified, a hand over his shoulder in a group shot, a swapped glance behind his back. At a reunion, I saw her standing off to the side. She didn't belong, but she was there. She lingered near him, though they didn't introduce her. I looked later at the photo. Her face was too familiar. I paused when I spotted her again at a distant function. What was shown and what was hidden were two different mirrors. He would bring her to gatherings, but never introduce her as mistress. He labeled her client, associate, colleague. She sat near him, but not in the spotlight. I heard rumors among neighbors. I saw her car near your house after midnight. He told me he had an important meeting at her apartment. She was always in blur, behind curtains, behind explanations. Through all this, the emotional stakes were enormous. My daughter invested trust, her heart, her belief, her future. She built dreams atop his promises. She believed in family. She believed in love. She paid in silence, in doubt, in second glances. She believed the man she married would never become a stranger in her own house. And I watched, held my tongue more than I should have. I told myself, she'll catch this. She'll see. Maybe my interference will break trust. Maybe I must wait until proof. I wished I had spoken up when I first saw the signs. I regretted the times I whispered to myself, should I warn her? Am I imagining this? I wondered if silence was my own betrayal. When she came to me, tears brimming, saying, "Mama, I feel something wrong," I held her close. But in my heart, I trembled. This is bigger than advice. I looked into her eyes and said, "Trust your instincts." But I did not tell her all I knew. Because in secrets, there is danger. In exposure, there is risk. All those memories would haunt them when truth walked through the door. When she confronted him, the past would rise like tide. The laughter, the promises, the shadows, they would all press in. That foundation built on love would wobble. And behind the mask, the glue plot would unravel more than she anticipated. So now, as we inch toward the moment of revelation, hold on to your senses. Watch for lies sown in softness. Watch for betrayal hidden in affection. Watch for ghosts in pictures and price tags in bills. And know this, betrayal seldom announces itself. It arrives in whispers, in glances, in quiet shifts. It waits until all illusions are lost, until hearts bleed. And when it finally breaks, it does not break quietly. Memories have a way of settling in corners you forget. They drift in like dust motes in sunrise and cling to the soul. Before betrayal cast its shadow, there was laughter, trust, promise. Let me take you there, back when her marriage still felt like a sanctuary. I remember the early days, her courtship with the man she would marry. He was charming, attentive, full of soft words and bright dreams. On their engagement night, he told her with hand over heart, "I will never leave you." She smiled, tears shining. She believed him, her eyes glowed under string lights. We all believed. At family dinners, I watched them side by side, vibrating with hope. Holiday gatherings at my house, turkey, greens, sweet potato pie cooling windowsills. He laughed with cousins, teased her, sat close. I watched her lean in, face softened. She glowed. She felt safe. She believed the promises were permanent. On New Year's Eve, fireworks lit the yard. She and her husband danced on the porch floorboards, arms around each other. She whispered hopes, children, careers, legacy, growing old together. I sat back and watched that dream crystallize. The salt air, the moonlight, the piano playing softly, everything felt sacred. But as years passed, the foundation began to tremble. I saw small warnings that felt like murmurs at first. Late calls, 2 a.m. phone tones that startled the house. Disguised numbers. He'd say, "Duty called, needed me." She would nod. I watched worry flicker in her eyes. One night he came home smelling faintly of perfume she didn't wear. She paused at the door, inhaled, hesitated, saying nothing. I saw her swallow. There were unexplained absences. She'd go to the gym, he'd go to a meeting. She'd ask after hours, he'd murmur excuses. Sometimes he'd return late, quiet footsteps down the stairs. She'd rise, walk into the hallway, see the door to the guest room cracked, half-lit. I'd sit awake down the hall, hearing her catch her breath, her feet padding back to bed. I noticed hushed tones when he took calls in other rooms. I observed her phone locked, hidden apps, messages she opened then closed. I saw him delete browser history in the early morning hours. I saw her tear text fragments before she thought I was looking. I saw shadows behind their marriage. The mistress's presence was always a ghost, faint, peripheral, but real. She sometimes appeared in old photos, though not identified, a hand over his shoulder in a group shot, a swapped glance behind his back. At a reunion, I saw her standing off to the side. She didn't belong, but she was there. She lingered near him, though they didn't introduce her. I looked later at the photo. Her face was too familiar. I paused when I spotted her again at a distant function. What was shown and what was hidden were two different mirrors. He would bring her to gatherings, but never introduce her as mistress. He labeled her client, associate, colleague. She sat near him, but not in the spotlight. I heard rumors among neighbors. I saw her car near your house after midnight. He told me he had an important meeting at her apartment. She was always in blur, behind curtains, behind explanations. Through all this, the emotional stakes were enormous. My daughter invested trust, her heart, her belief, her future. She built dreams atop his promises. She believed in family. She believed in love. She paid in silence, in doubt, in second glances. She believed the man she married would never become a stranger in her own house. And I watched, held my tongue more than I should have. I told myself, she'll catch this. She'll see. Maybe my interference will break trust. Maybe I must wait until proof. I wished I had spoken up when I first saw the signs. I regretted the times I whispered to myself, should I warn her? Am I imagining this? I wondered if silence was my own betrayal. When she came to me, tears brimming, saying, "Mama, I feel something wrong," I held her close. But in my heart, I trembled. This is bigger than advice. I looked into her eyes and said, "Trust your instincts." But I did not tell her all I knew. Because in secrets, there is danger. In exposure, there is risk. All those memories would haunt them when truth walked through the door. When she confronted him, the past would rise like tide. The laughter, the promises, the shadows, they would all press in. That foundation built on love would wobble. And behind the mask, the glue plot would unravel more than she anticipated. So now, as we inch toward the moment of revelation, hold on to your senses. Watch for lies sown in softness. Watch for betrayal hidden in affection. Watch for ghosts in pictures and price tags in bills. And know this, betrayal seldom announces itself. It arrives in whispers, in glances, in quiet shifts. It waits until all illusions are lost, until hearts bleed. And when it finally breaks, it does not break quietly. Suspicion is a slow poison. It creeps in when love grows complacent. It whispers in the spaces between what's said and what's done. In this chapter, my daughter began to act, small moves, careful probes, as the foundation of betrayal cracked wider. She started noticing things. A phone tucked under a pillow in another room. Late glances when he thought she wasn't watching. A faint perfume she didn't wear, lingering on his shirt. Receipts hid in glove compartments. A dinner charge on a card that didn't match a business address. Small breadcrumbs he thought invisible. One night, she confronted him. "Why did you leave at 1 a.m. again?" she asked, her voice steady but quivering. He paused in the hallway, keys in hand. He said, casually, "Had to meet a client. Unexpected emergency." She held her breath. She said, "Which client?" He said, "A vendor in town." He walked past her, shoulders squared, the silence thicker than accusation. She swallowed indignation. She began to record calls one-sided when he wasn't aware. She asked innocuous questions, press soft, "Are you okay? Did something happen?" just to hear his tone. She checked the voice logs. She saw one of his frequent calls at 3:14 a.m. to a number labeled in his phone as consultant. She checked bank statements. There it was, a charge to Luxe Interiors, a high-end boutique. She looked that up. It matched the name of a dress shop in the mistress's neighborhood. My heart gripped when she showed me the evidence. I felt pride and fear in the same breath. I wanted to tell her to stop, to back away, to protect her heart. But I also knew she had to peel back the layers herself. So I sat quietly beside her, offered comfort, let her courage rise. Conflict was rising between them. He began to assert dominance. When she asked more probing questions, he dismissed them. "You're imagining things, you're overreacting, do you not trust me?" As though doubt was a crime she committed. Sometimes he'd respond with anger, sometimes with a cold silence. She would stand in the kitchen, tears glinting, voice quiet, "I'm only asking for truth." He'd stare at her, breathe deeply, close the door behind him. One evening, I witnessed her heartbreak. She sat at her vanity, eyes puffy, staring at her reflection. The light caught lines in her face she hadn't known were deepening. She touched her cheek, said, "Mama, was I not enough? Did I let him slip away by loving too much?" I wanted to wrap her in blanket, shield her, tear into him. But I held steady, knowing that if I intervened too soon, I'd silence her own power. Inside me, I wavered. Should I expose him? Should I reveal what I know? Each time her voice cracked, I thought, maybe I should speak now before she breaks. But I also recalled her strength, her insistence on owning her narrative. She wanted proof, not rescue. And among us, I feared the backlash. If I exposed too soon, the family would savage her. If I stayed quiet, she'd pay the emotional price. So I tiptoed. I offered small truths. "If you need me, I'm here." I brought her water in the night. I left a journal on her bedside. I let her courage gather without pushing. Meanwhile, the husband's control tactics escalated. He began checking her phone, asking to see messages. He questioned her whereabouts, read her email drafts. He issued ultimatums. "If you keep doubting me, you'll damage us." He used guilt, expectation, manipulation. And every time, she recoiled inside, hurt but resolute. One afternoon, she confronted him during lunch. The mistress's name had shown on a bank charge. She said, "What is Luxe Interiors? Why is it on your card?" His mouth stuttered. He said, "Furniture repair." She said, "The address matches a shop downtown." He grabbed his jacket, said, "I'm busy now." He left abruptly, leaving her stunned, mid-question. That night, she texted me, "Mama, I can't sleep." I heard their voices in the study. He's lying. She's lying. I don't know what I'll do. I called her. We whispered in halves. I told her to hold. She said, "I can't hold this much longer." I promised, "Tomorrow we see more. I'll walk with you." Suspicion had moved from seed to vine, creeping over every inch. I watched him in passing when he thought no one was looking, rub his forehead, check his phone. I watched the mistress's belongings appear in odd places, a scarf on his coat, a lipstick blink in his pocket. I saw that he had begun deleting photos from his backup. I saw that the glove box had a stain. In one heated moment, I nearly intervened. He and his mistress argued in whispered tones over the phone in a room adjacent to the living room. I stood at the hallway's edge, trembling. Their words, "Don't spoil it. You promised it'd be discreet. I can't lose him." I stepped toward the door, then thought, let her see this with her own eyes. Let her confront him. Let truth land loud. She had no idea how deep the betrayal ran until she did. And now we move toward truth's unveiling, where layers peel, relationships fracture, and what was hidden becomes visible. That morning arrived like a held breath. The sky was pale, tentative. The world felt too quiet. But inside her chest, my daughter's heart hammered. This was the day she crossed the threshold, the day she would act, not wait. The day she would trap the betrayer and watch him fall by his own vanity. She rose in the dim gray light before sunrise. Her steps were soft. Her face set. She dressed in plain clothes, clothes she'd chosen for stealth, not beauty. She paused at her bathroom mirror, staring at the woman she had become, eyes rimmed with worry, jaw firm. She whispered to her reflection, "This is your moment." Then she left the house, saying she had errands, groceries, a pharmacy run, a meeting that would take hours. I watched from a distance, a ripple of dread in my gut. Something in her posture, shoulders tensed, lips pressed, told me she carried a storm. I sensed the shadows of deceit. I saw her fingers tremble over her phone, the way she avoided my eyes when she returned. She spoke too softly, offered excuses with clipped breath. The ordinary errands were a cover. I made coffee in the kitchen, lingering by the window. I heard her leave again, doors closing quietly. I traced her route in my mind, to a chemist, to a motherhood store, then a boutique where small bottles lined shelves, some innocuous, some potent. I knew yet dared not ask. I watched for her returning. Inside, she moved with purpose. She brought things into the house, small vials, a pair of gloves, spare bottles of lubricant, labels. She laid them on the counter as though preparing a ritual. She studied each bottle's shape, weight, cap. She poured carefully, unlabeled, measured, into a bottle she'd cleaned. In soft golden light she whispered, "You'll see." She concealed her actions meticulously. She wrapped the glued bottle in cloth, placed it in a drawer behind mundane boxes. She replaced the original lube bottle discreetly. She double-checked that the glove box had matching fade. She placed towels nearby, prepared tissues, positioned a phone with camera tracking angles. Sometimes I peeked from down the hallway. She froze. Our eyes met across the door frame. She said nothing. I nodded subtly, acknowledging the danger she carried. Throughout the day, she rehearsed confrontation in her mind, what she would say, what evidence she would demand, how she would remain dignified. She mumbled silent speeches in empty rooms. "Why did you lie? Look at what you hid. You betrayed what we built." She practiced camera angles, which frame would catch his face. She mapped escape routes, from the room to the hallway to the porch. She saved images on her phone, duplicating backups, hiding them in cloud folders named innocuous things like home maintenance. Meanwhile, I, older, having felt betrayal before, weighed whether to intervene. I remembered my own cost when I held back. I stood at the threshold of her plan, tempted to step forward and stop her. But I understood, this must come from her power, not mine. She insisted under her breath, when I offered help, "Mama, I need to do this myself." And I stepped back. Night crept in like a slow tide. The house darkened. She barely slept. She paced the halls in thin socks. She knelt in the living room at midnight and prayed, "God, give me strength, clarity, mercy, but justice." She touched the walls, whispered memories so they wouldn't feel hollow. She wept softly in her pillow. She checked her phone repeatedly, repositioned her camera phone. Her heart thudded like a war drum. Around 3 a.m., she rose again and walked to the living room window, looked out at the silent street, the lamplight, the hush. She murmured to herself, "Tomorrow, they'll see me." Then she returned to her bottles, rechecking labels, adjusting glue thickness, shaking small vials. Every move measured, every breath counted. In her bedroom, I heard her phone light up, a reminder, a message she deleted immediately. The mistress's number? Or him? I didn't trace it. I lay awake, willing for dawn to come, and fearing it all the same. She had no idea how deep the betrayal ran until tonight's decision. He left before dawn again, briefcase in hand, suit jacket over his arm. He kissed her forehead with a dismissive gentleness. "Business trip," he whispered. "I'll text when free." She nodded. She watched the tail lights fade down the driveway, heart battered. She gathered her things, zipped the hidden bottle in her bag, and slipped into the passenger side of her car. I followed, not too close, not too far. My heart in my throat. I kept distance, shadows between me and her. I traced his likely path, city route, highway exit, motel district. My mind replayed maps, camera angle plans, escape routes. This night would demand precision. She drove with purpose, fingers white on the steering wheel. Her breath caught each time she turned a corner. She thought of the glue, the swap, the moment when he and his mistress would step into their own trap. She reminded herself, don't flinch. Stay calm. In her mind, she ran scenarios. If he is late? If she sees something off? If the mistress flees? If guards, cameras, alarms? She rehearsed calm confrontation. Look at this. It proves everything. Ahead, in a quiet stretch, she saw his car parked at a side road. The mistress's silhouette stood near. She slowed. She parked a block away, lights off, engine barely idling. She grabbed her bag. She checked her phone's hidden camera app. She activated recording. She glanced at her reflection in the rearview mirror, eyes steely, lips pressed. The moment had come. I moved behind, keeping distance, watching her step out, approach the door of a modest house. I could see the dull light in a front room window. I watched hands unseen creeping to her pockets, pulling out the flasks, preparing the swap. She compared the original bottle to the glued version, same shape, same label, subtle difference. Inside the house, the mistress poured champagne. The room glowed with warm lamplight. She chatted with the husband, softened voices. He unbuttoned his cuff, relaxed. The doorbell rang. The mistress smiled. She answered. He stepped forward to greet whoever arrived. They didn't expect a trap. They never do. She slipped in quietly behind a side door. The hall was dim. She moved along walls, heart pounding. Each footstep sounded too loud. She heard their laughter, soft music. The scent of perfume, red wine. The flutter of heartbeats, hers and theirs entwined in that shared hush. I watched from shadows beyond a fence, camera lens pointed, pulse echoing. I saw her hand inch toward the swapped bottle. She slid it into his coat pocket when he wasn't paying attention, replaced his original quietly. The mistress spoke a jest. He turned to her, surprised by the movement. The heart in my chest fluttered uneasy. In their faces I saw oblivion, he unsuspecting, she trusting. He clasped her hand, kissed her neck. He leaned close. She smiled. But all of it was about to shift. She stood in the dark, waiting for the glue to betray him, but the betrayal would reach farther than she dreamed. In that moment, I felt the magnitude of what she was about to unleash. This was not just about infidelity. This was about power, visibility, consequence. This would not be a quiet end. When she triggered that surprise, the air cracked. The glue trap she'd set slipped silently into place until everything burst in ruin. She watched him pour what he thought was familiar lubricant. She saw it, hands steady, middle of night. The mistress leaned back, eyes closed, lips parting. The man whispered softly in her ear. She saw the look in his eyes. Desire, assurance. But he never knew what lay inside that bottle. Within moments, the mistress cried out. She struggled to rise, tried to turn, felt her skin stick. Her gown followed, adhered. She gasped in shock. He lunged forward in panic, pulling apart stuck fabric, pulling her toward him. She clutched his arm, tears brimming. What is this? What have you done? Chaos exploded. The fire alarm screeched. Lights flickered. Doors locked automatically. He ran to windows. She screamed betrayal. She fought to breathe, pressed against him. He cursed. He slammed his fists on walls, tried to force open doors. The glue held, snared flesh to cloth. She pushed in horror, voice shrill. You set me up. You betrayed me. In the hallway, we heard the screams. The neighbors called 911. Within minutes, lights of emergency vehicles licked their windows. Firefighters and police burst in. Doors were kicked open. Men in boots rushed, axes and pry tools in hand. He shielded her. He screamed, "Step back. She's hurt." The firefighter yanked him off, pried him back. He strode through the door, arms pulling, voices echoing. The mistress cried, half bound, half writhing. He snapped, "She tricked me." She sobbed, "You lied. You forced me into this." Glue bonded. They pulled. The smell of adhesive filled the air. Skin stretched. Fabric tore. The room blurred with movement, shouting. I burst in, heart pounding, breath stuck in throat. I marched forward, hair wild. "Stop this nonsense!" I shouted. The room froze for a heartbeat. He turned to me, face flushed. She gasped. He said, "Mama, don't interfere." I said, "Don't you dare try to silence truth now." The mistress backed away, tears in eyes. She shouted, "He did this. He forced me." She pointed to him. He recoiled. Accusations flew. She spat names. She dug in her purse for proof, through receipts, photos. She screamed about secret dinners, clandestine texts. The room trembled with confession. Flashbacks cut in. Her husband on that anniversary night, promising forever, then slipping out. The mistress in dim corridors, flirting with his phone calls. The daughter crying to me, "I don't recognize him anymore." Late nights, empty beds, scripts he told her to explain away. Back in present, Mama arrived at the back door, keys in hand. She heard final scream before the main door burst open. She froze at the threshold. Her jaw slack. Her eyes wild. The family clustered in foyer. Neighbors spilled in. She saw the mess, the tangled bodies, the firefighters pulling apart cloth and skin. She gasped, stepped in. I turned to her, "Mama, we never wanted this spectacle." But truth demanded a stage. She covered her mouth. Tears blurred her vision. She looked at her daughter, half horror, half fierce love. He attempted to speak, voice quivering, "This is not what you think." But no one listened. We all heard it now. In that moment, truth blew apart illusions, and no one would walk away untouched. The storm didn't fade when the reveal came. It roared onward. Fallout cracked open alliances, exposed hidden debts, turned confidants into enemies. When I stepped into that room, heart pounding, I knew the battle had only just begun. Mama stood at the center, trembling with righteous fury. Her voice cracked, You stand there and tell me why? Why betray my daughter? Why deceive me? In my own home." She pointed at him, then at the mistress, her eyes blazing. "I raised you. I welcomed you. I loved you both, and this is how you repay me." The husband's shoulders sagged. He swallowed hard. His voice came broken, "Mama, please hear me out." The mistress, bound by stuck clothes, wiped tears, gathered courage. She said, "It wasn't supposed to go this far. He promised me discretion. He said he loved me. He said our arrangement would be private." She raised her voice. "I thought I was your other life, not your weapon." Mama's eyes narrowed. "You thought? You think love is permission to betray? You think deceit is a gift?" Her voice echoed. The husband flinched as though struck. I stepped forward, unafraid now. "Let's talk about more than glue," I said. "Let's talk about what was hidden long before tonight." I pulled out papers. Hidden debts. Contracts. Letters I'd uncovered. I showed invoices addressed to the mistress under shell companies. I lifted a deed amendment Aunt Marissa had urged Mama to sign, under the guise of tax benefits, a clause granting partial title to investors if Mama became incapacitated. Those investors linked to the mistress's circle. I revealed how the mistress had pressured him, how she had quietly blackmailed him over financial secrets. I revealed side deals, forged authorizations, cash flow diversion from his accounts. I showed how some friends and neighbors had been complicit, covering shifts, giving alibis, turning blind eyes. I revealed photos of secret dinners with his phone camera off, receipts in his name, but with her address, hotel ledgers with coded client names. At each revelation, the room gasped. Alliances shifted. Some friends in attendance, once smiling at past family meals, recoiled in shame or moved away. His brother, who had once offered support, looked stricken. He said, "I didn't know. I thought he was fighting for the family." Mama turned on him. "You sat in silence while my home was sold out from under us. You watched nothing, asked nothing." He lowered his head. The mistress's face contorted. "I didn't start this war. He drew me in." She gestured toward him. "He told me he was unhappy, neglected. He gave me hope." She sobbed. "I didn't plan for this destruction." He stuttered. "I was weak. I was lost. I thought I could manage both until I couldn't." His voice faltered. He begged forgiveness. He said, "I never wanted to hurt you, Mama." He said to the mistress, "I never meant for you to be caught." Mama shook her head. She said, "Don't talk of meant. Talk of done." Her voice broken but resolute. She asked me, "You knew?" I nodded. Tears glimmered behind her eyes, rage planting itself in her chest. One cousin who had always sided quietly with the mistress whispered, "She was threatened. She threatened him." Another relative said, "I backed you, Tina. I believed her stories." Loyalties fractured. Allies revealed themselves. Some backed the daughter. Some defaulted to silence. Some muttered about money, lies, hidden debts. The husband turned on me. "You're part of this too." He scoffed. "You protected your daughter's pride but let lies fester." But I stood firm. I withheld truth until she asked for it, until she was ready. "I am not the betrayer you are." Mama's tears turned to anger. She slapped a photo album off the table. Pictures scattered, anniversaries, childhood, smiles. She said, "Look at this, all of it built on illusions." She looked at her daughter, then at the husband and mistress. "From now on, we rebuild on truth." The mistress, now trembling, said, "I'm sorry." Her apology rang hollow in the charged air. Some in the room nodded, some recoiled. By the end, alliances had shifted irrevocably. Those who had whispered behind doors now stood either ashamed or complicit. The strongest hearts trembled, no one untouched by betrayal's echo. And as the room shook in the weight of revelations, I watched Mama, silent, bleeding, resolute, knowing we stood on the edge of something new. By dawn, the house was hushed, heavy with aftermath, drenched in truth. The glue had done its work. Lies were stripped away. Now only raw hearts remained, trembling in the wreckage. My daughter sat in the living room, tears staining her cheeks, hands knotted in her lap. Mama stood across from her, shoulders sagging, grief etched in her lines. They faced each other, mother and child wounded by the same betrayal, aching for reconciliation. Mama's voice trembled. "Baby, I'm sorry. I am so sorry I ever let this happen in our home. I should have seen it sooner. I should have listened." She dropped to her knees, reaching for my daughter's hand. Her eyes were broken open, pleading. The daughter swallowed. She looked up, voice raw. "Mama, you did what you could with what you had. But I needed you to see me, to believe me." Her tears slipped. "I asked for love, not silence. I asked for loyalty, not secrets." They embraced, trembling, weak, but real. The anger in their hearts did not vanish, but in that moment, forgiveness flickered as possibility. Then he stood in the doorway, husband, face bruised by shame, shoulders stooped. His eyes rimmed with regret. He said haltingly, I own it all. I know I betrayed your trust. I lied. I manipulated. But I want to make it right if you'll let me." He held a photo in shaky hands, their wedding picture. "I'll rebuild every wall I broke, starting first with your heart." She shook her head. "You can't just walk back in and expect forgiveness." She rose, voice firm. "If you want any part of me, trust and respect come first. You must prove it." Her command hung in the air. "No more lies. No more secrets. I will not be someone's second option." He stepped forward, voice soft. "I will earn that. Every day." Mama watched, tears glinting. She turned to me, eyes warm. I moved beside my daughter, placing a hand on her shoulder. My heart swelled, wanting to protect, wanting her to lean into the truth. I whispered in her ear, "I'm here. I have always been here." We stood in fragile truce. The mistress was gone, escorted by officers earlier, her face pale, guilt pressed on her. Her chair at the table was empty. In the silence, her absence echoed. She would no longer be part of this house. We knew we were not healed, not entirely. Some nights, nightmares might revisit. Some trust would take years to rebuild. But we chose a path forward, together, if possible, or apart with respect. Mama, daughter, and husband formed a triangle of reckoning. They each spoke truths they had hidden for years. They set lines, no secret accounts, transparent phones, therapy sessions, shared financial oversight. For trust to grow, structure must support it. I watched them negotiate small steps, dinners without phone distraction, honest check-ins, logs reviewed together. They decided the house would stay, repaired under new terms. He would contribute to repairs, but under watch. The mistress connection was severed forever. He would resign from ventures tied to her. They made public declarations to family. The affair is over. She is unwelcome. It was messy. It was slow. Sometimes jagged. But it was real. Mama apologized to me in a trembling hush. "I failed you for wanting to keep us whole." I held her face. "You never failed me. You loved with what you had." She wept. My daughter looked at me, voice soft. "Mama, thank you for never giving up on me. Thank you for letting me fight this my own way." She squeezed my hand. And as we stood there, woman, daughter, mother, the walls seemed to sigh, as though releasing weight. The sunlight filtered in through those windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. A new day beginning. We may not heal overnight, but we'll walk forward, together or apart. Granny Tina, narrator, voice calm and rich with wisdom. I've lived long enough to tell you this with my whole chest. There is no betrayal that can bury the truth forever. It might take months, maybe even years. But truth? Baby, truth rises like the sun, slow, steady, and impossible to ignore. What happened with my daughter, what she did, what she endured, what she overcame, it wasn't just drama. It was transformation. We came through fire. Real fire. The kind that don't just scorch the earth, it scorches your soul. But sometimes, that's how you find out what's real. You want to know what I've learned? I've learned that you can love somebody and still walk away. You can want a family to stay whole and still choose yourself when staying means bleeding. And I've learned that sometimes, to become the woman God intended you to be, you gotta burn down the parts of your life that were never yours to carry. Now me and my baby? We don't talk about that day with glue and lies and fire alarms too often. But when we sit together on that porch, sipping tea and watching the light stretch across the grass, I can feel it. That quiet, tender peace that only comes after surviving the storm. She's still healing. She's still learning. But now she does it with her head up and boundaries firm. That husband of hers? Well, let's just say he's had to learn how to come correct or not come at all. And me? I've stepped back, not out. I love her, I guide her, but I let her be her own woman now. It ain't easy, but it's necessary. So if you out there, listening right now, and your heart's heavy with hurt, your trust bruised, your dignity tested, I need you to hear me. You are not alone. You ain't crazy. You ain't weak. You're just in the middle of your storm. And baby, storms pass. You might be standing in ashes right now, but ashes make rich soil. So plant something. Something bold. Something that's yours. Something that says, "This time I choose me." Now before we close this chapter, let me say this. If this story touched you, if it made you feel seen, or helped you breathe a little deeper, click that subscribe button right now. Not just for me, but for you. Because this channel, this porch we've built together, this is a place where no story is too messy. No past too painful. No truth too ugly to be held in love. We post stories every single day, the kind that speak to the soul. The kind that make you laugh, cry, think, and remember who you are. So subscribe. Turn on those notifications. And if you feel led, share your own story in the comments. Tell us what you've walked through. Tell us how you're rising. Tell us who you're becoming. Because, baby, we're not just telling tales here. We're testifying. And I promise you, somebody out there needs your truth just as much as you needed mine. Voices of Granny Tina. Real stories. Real healing. Real life.